Hello, I'm Gill Fielding, and this is what's caught my eye in the press this week. Well, first of all, like everyone else, I've been reading about the rising cost of living and the rising energy costs, and I read a fantastic article which itemised the cost of all the gadgets that we have in our home. Now, I'm not a gadget person, I'm a very simple soul. So I don't have lists and lists of gadgets, unlike my daughter and son-in-law who have every gadget going. Now, if you've got a lot of gadgets, then you will be impacted much more severely by rising energy costs because it costs a lot of money to keep these gadgets going. Apparently, in the top three of all energy guzzlers are a games console. Now, I don't have a games console, so that's not going to impact me, but it will impact lots of others. Um, but I also read that it costs £4 a month to keep a smart doorbell going. Now, I don't have a smart doorbell. I have a knocker, and if I want to see who it is, I look out the window. So, so it's very simple. And I think the simpler your life, the less you're going to be impacted by certainly energy costs rising. And a simpler life is better for lots of other reasons as well. And it made me laugh because I was reading guidance from an energy consultant who was giving tips on how you can conserve energy and maximize your energy that you have. And he came up with this wonderful idea that when you've finished cooking, you leave the oven door open so the heat comes out into the room. Now, I, I laughed at that because my mum knew that 60 years ago. When we lived in the East End of London, we didn't have heating. So the cooker was not only the cooker, but was also the heating and all kinds of other stuff. And of a morning when she'd finished cooking the breakfast, which was generally toast, and on an old-fashioned grill pan, not a toaster, not a gadget. So she would cook the toast on the old-fashioned grill pan, and then once we'd got the toast, she'd put our vests and socks on the grill pan to warm them up. So my mum, who knew she was 60 years ahead of her time, of some smart energy consultant. But there we go. Keep your life simple. I'm not recommending you warm your underwear on the toaster, but keep your life as simple as you can, and then you won't have the cost of all these gadgets and the increasing cost of these gadgets with energy price rises. Um, the next thing I read, I'm always looking to see what the big players are doing in terms of property. What are they buying? What are they selling? What are they developing? Because as an individual small investor and developer, I can move much more quickly than the big players, and I can get in and do what they're doing, but on a much smaller scale, but reap the benefit of their research and their creativity. And I read about a lovely scheme that's being done by Cambridge University, and they have a specific issue that they want to resolve, which is housing their academics. So they've obviously got a policy to house the students, but they also need something to house the academics because it's difficult to get rental properties anywhere, as you all know. And what they've done is they've sold off 150 hectares of land within the university campus, and they've sold it to a developer on the proviso that the developer allocates some of the properties to their academics. But it's even smarter than that because the developer is going to build 3,000 houses, and Cambridge University have basically put prior nabs on, have identified 373 properties that they want for their academics, but they want them to be rented. So the developer is going to have to hold those 373 properties and rent them out to academics in as part of the deal that they've done with Cambridge University. I think it's really creative. It's a win-win all round. Cambridge get a bit of money for their land. The developer gets money, gets land to develop properties. The academics get somewhere to live. Win-win all round. And I'm not saying that we can do that as individual investors, but thinking about those creative solutions is really positive, and we all need to do it increasingly to come up with solutions. Rental properties, are just so difficult to get. And I read another article which highlighted for me personally exactly what the issue is with property, because I saw an article about the value of properties in areas of outstanding national beauty and national parks. And properties within those boundaries sell at a 25% premium to properties, similar properties, identical properties elsewhere. And even if you're within 5 kilometres of the boundary of a national park, your property will still attract a premium of about 7%. Now, it got me to thinking, those properties there, they have two purposes, okay? They are a domestic dwelling. For the vast majority of people in the UK, a property is just where they live with their kids and their cat and their lawnmower, nothing else. They're not interested in it as an investment. But for a small proportion of people, every property is also a potential investment. But when you think about it clearly, what a property investor wants to do is to have a business where you buy cheap and you sell high and you get as much income as you can between those two dates. And that's what a property investor wants to do. They're not interested in what the property looks like and where the cushions go and all those other things that are of relevance to the domestic purchaser. So if we apply that theory to these properties in the national parks and so on, people would say to me, oh, they'd make fantastic service accommodation, Airbnb type properties. Yeah, they would. So the income between the buy and the sell would be quite high, let's assume. But the purchasing price is so high that I don't think you could ever buy low and sell high. So I'm not sure that they do make valid investments. And I personally wouldn't touch anything like that. I mean, some people might, they might have some kind of swanky strategy, but if you keep in mind the basic principles of buy low, sell high, and get as much income as you can between those two dates, that's broadly all a property investor wants to do. And of course, what it made me think about is that every property has two purposes. It's either a domestic home or it's an investment. And unfortunately, people generally think that they know about property investing because they live somewhere, because they've bought and sold their own home, for example, or rented their own home. So they think they know about property investing, and that is not the case. Property investing is more like share investing than it is domestic purchasing, because you've got to look at the asset value and the income or the dividends if it's a share. It's more like share investing than it is like domestic purchasing. So many people confuse that. And if people were buying shares, they wouldn't, if they bought a share in, say, Sainsbury's, for example, they wouldn't think that they will always shop at Sainsbury's and they'll get a better deal and all that other kind of stuff. They understand that it's a share in Sainsbury's and that will go up and down in value, and hopefully they buy low, sell high, and get as much income or dividends in between those two dates. And that is the crux of the matter. People think they understand property investing because they live somewhere. They don't. People need to think about property investing more like share investing and get properly educated and get more different knowledge. It requires a different set of knowledge to buy a property for an investment. And just think about the areas of outstanding natural beauty, and whether you would pay a premium. Apparently there's a national park near, not very far from me, where the average house price is 750,000 because it's a national park and it's, you know, apparently pretty. I wouldn't buy there. Would you? Have a think about it. Okay, have a fantastic week. Keep safe. Bye-bye.